Greetings from Amsterdam. This is my room with a view. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Arlene. I am an American woman of a certain age who moved to Rome in 2008. And on this channel, we talk about all things Italiano, lifestyle, St. Martin, and Gwilla. So I went to Amsterdam for my birthday, a birthday that I was not really excited about because of I just really miss my parents. And also, it was a big birthday. I'm not going to say what age because, just know I'm Gen X. And it turned out to be a great trip. I met up with my friend Maureen, who lives in Amsterdam. She used to live in St. Martin. This is our aperitivo. This is the view from our aperitivo. We went to the Pulizter Bar. And Maureen and I actually met years ago at a sister girl dinner in Rome, and then reconnected when she was in St. Martin, and now she's in Amsterdam, which is very close. And I went out on a run the morning of my birthday, which was Wednesday, August 26th. And like I said, this was a bittersweet day. I was really in my feelings. My dad passed away in November. My mom passed away about 13 months before that. So anyway, the last couple years have been quite trying. And my dad, even though he did live a long time, he passed away at 96, the last year or so, very difficult because anybody who's dealing with a parent who has dementia, it's a lot. So anyway, all this to say, I was not looking forward to this birthday, but I'm glad that I decided at the last minute to go to one of my favorite cities. Normally, when I go to Amsterdam, I try to get to at least one museum. I've been to most of them already. And on this trip, I just wanted to take it easy, relax, and I lucked out with the weather. Forecast had called for rain, cloudy, cold. Turned out to be beautiful. And I love the architecture of these buildings, walking along the canals. It's really special. And this workout was great because I love to get out early before the crowds and the zillion bikes so I don't get run over. And I walked this morning. I went over to the museum district, which is really pretty, and it's very close to one of my favorite parks, period. Like, it's up there with Villa Borghese, Central Park, Griffith Park in LA. And I think this time of year is great to go to Amsterdam because it's not too hot. So this is a great museum. And I agree with this sign that I'm going to show you. That is true. It is contagious. So after walking through this neighborhood, I then went to the park and did a loop in the park, which was great because, again, it wasn't too crowded. I'm curious about the prices for these houses and apartments that overlook the park. I get the sense it's a very expensive neighborhood. So then I took the train to Blomendaal. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. This station is in this really charming town. And then from the station, you have to take a bus to get to the beach because I like to be by the water. And I did not realize that there was a beach so close to the city center of Amsterdam. So when I was walking around this little town to get to the bus, I thought, wow, this is very charming. And so I did some Googling and found out that this is not one of the most, it is the wealthiest town in the Netherlands. And when I was on the bus, we drove past these huge mansions. You could kind of see a little bit over the hedges. And they're not like McMansions, what we're used to in the States. These are like old school, like kind of East Coast USA mansions with a lot of character. And I was cracking up to myself because it's like, of course, I would think this neighborhood is charming because it's very wealthy. Anyway, this is the restaurant I went to. My friend Maureen suggested that I go here for lunch, have a view of the sea. I really like this place. It's called Bloomingdale. And this was my lunch. This sea bass grilled. I don't know how much butter they used, but it was excellent. I wasn't expecting the fish head on it, though, which reminded me of my dad because he always loved to get a whole fish. And I also had this drink, which was like a in-house berry lemonade with some seltzer or something. So good. And here's the view of the sea. This belonged to my mom, so I felt like she was kind of with me. And I stopped by this cafe, Liberty Cafe. They have one also in Haarlem. That's Haarlem in the Netherlands. And they just opened this one about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I picked up a cake to go. A slice of cake to go. And then I was back in the city center. I stopped by my hotel room, decompressed for a minute, and then said, okay, I'm going to go to this place called Bar Perry for a glass of wine and something to eat. And, that would be my evening. And of course, when I got there, it was not open because Google was incorrect. But you know what? That's okay because it was such a beautiful evening out. And I just enjoyed walking around again, looking at the architecture, these incredible canals. And I wanted to go to a cheese shop that is near the place where I thought I was going to have dinner. And the cheese shop was open. So I was like, okay, excellent. So I went here and bought some Gouda cheese that has truffles in it. So delicious. Love this shop. It's a must every time I come to Amsterdam. So I ended up just popping into some random cafe, and this was my dinner. And then walked back to the hotels. The sun was setting. And, I had more than just French fries for dinner. I also had like these lobster croquettes. I don't think I had a single salad the entire time I was in Amsterdam. So let's see. I went the next day. I had a massage, which was great. I went on a run. And then I went to this little restaurant that's on a side street that someone at the hotel told me about last year. And I was thinking about this pho since. And I tried to make this dish. It did not come out like this. So delicious, so good, perfect. I'm going to try again to make this soup. We'll see what happens because it's one of my favorite things in the world. And a friend of mine told me, who's an amazing cook, she's like, yeah, it's not an easy dish to make at home. But you know what? I'm going to keep trying and we'll see what happens. So after leaving the restaurant, again, it's beautiful out, so I'm walking around. And this church called Westerkerk, I want to go inside, but every time I went to the church, it was closed. And I couldn't figure out what that was about. Because in Rome, most of the churches are open. Maybe they close a little bit. They close maybe for a couple hours during the day, like after Mass, and then they reopen. But this church always closed. So this church is very close to the Anne Frank house. And in her diary, she actually talks about hearing the church bells. Her house is, you can't really see it, but it's the gray doors. And the big building is the Anne Frank Museum. So lo and behold, I couldn't believe it. The church was actually open. And this church was built in 1620, completed in 1631. And because it was Calvinist, Protestant, they thought music was like a sin. So there was no organ for the first couple decades. And then they finally put an organ in like the late 1600s. And Rembrandt was buried here. But he had financial issues. Even though he was successful, he's a successful artist, but he couldn't manage his money. And they removed his remains a couple decades afterwards and destroyed them because he was poor. So they're like, you got to get out. But this church, if it's open, I highly recommend going inside. It's beautiful. And I just find it interesting how simple it is versus some of the Protestant churches in the States and also, of course, the Catholic churches in Italy. And this was my last night. Went on a jog in the morning. Then I took the train to the airport, which is so easy. I learned my lesson. I only had a carry-on, so it was super simple. The first time I went to Amsterdam, I did not have a carry-on. So I took a taxi. You're stuck in traffic forever. I think it was like 70 euros. This instead is what, 5-6 euros each way, and no traffic. And it's maybe 15-20 minutes to the city center from the airport. So if you're going to Amsterdam, I suggest taking the train from the airport to the central station. Easy, breezy. You use your debit card on these yellow, I don't know what you call them, yellow stands. You just hit it. Super simple. And I wish I had known that or had done that earlier. But live and learn. But Amsterdam, I'm so glad that I went. I was able to see my friend Maureen, my cousin, who is a professor at a university in The Hague. They went back to school. So we were not able to meet up like we did last time. But I will be back. Amsterdam is truly one of my favorite cities. And I wasn't sure what to make of it the first time I went to Amsterdam, but I've grown to love it. And I think because I know it better, I enjoy it. And it started to rain as I was leaving. So thank you, weather gods. And that is it for Amsterdam.